but the excitement is there, and I really want to compete at World Championships, so this meet means a lot to me.
Well, this is real important because this is the last testing before our World Championships, and this is real important for the younger guys because they need to feel real pressure, and we have to see who can do well under real pressure. That's real critical, and hopefully we're going to pick the right 6 guys that are going to go to Montreal. That's why it's so important.
This meet represents the changing of the guard in men's gymnastics, and the pressure could not be any more intense than it is tonight at St. Paul's Civic Center. The USA's top 24 gymnasts are competing against each other to determine who are the best 6 athletes to represent the USA internationally. This is St. Paul's landmark cathedral in the center of downtown St. Paul. A lot of gymnastics stop by here to say their prayers before tonight's competition begins. ESPN, your #1 source for sports, presents Men's Gymnastics. Tonight from St. Paul, Minnesota, on the banks of the Mississippi, it's the 1985 McDonald's World Championship Team Trials. Hello, everyone. I'm Leandra Riley, and as I said earlier, this represents a changing of the guard in men's gymnastics. That is because a lot of our 1984 Olympians were actually Olympians in 1980, but due to the USA's boycott of the Soviet Games, well, they decided to stick around for 1984. Now that they have won their medals, they have retired. But you may think that the USA's medal drought ended in 1984. That is not so. The man who ended the USA medal drought in men's gymnastics is standing next to me. He won a bronze medal in floor exercise back in 1976 up in Montreal. Peter Corman, who is here from our 1984 gymnastics team?
Well, 2 of our men are here, Timmy Daggett and Scott Johnson. Both are members of that gold medal team. But you know what's interesting? We have a lot of young faces. Brian Babcock, a new national champion, and a lot of people that have been waiting a long time to be #1 gymnasts in the United States. This is their chance.
We heard in the beginning of our telecast what this meet means to our gymnasts personally. What does the World Team Trial, what does that mean for our team internationally?
Well, in terms of competitive gymnastics, there is none that is any more competitive than the World Championship Team Trials. If a gymnast makes a mistake here, they will not go on to compete at the World Championships. So this is a must situation. And these gymnasts rarely feel this much pressure. This means as much as any competition in their career.
I'm sure it is very difficult because our gymnasts are competing against each other. As I said, our top 24 going head-to-head. And we'll be back and find out who's #1 through #6 after these important messages. Welcome back to the St. Paul Civic Center for these World Championship Team Trials. I'm Leandra Riley along with Peter Corman. And Peter, gymnastics competition consists of 2 phases. Compulsory and optionals. These are our standings after the compulsories.
That's right. The compulsory counts for 50% of the total score. So at the end of this, the optional round of competition, the optionals will be added to the compulsories, and that will determine the team which will go to the World Championships.
So we see that Tim Daggett, Scott Johnson, our Olympians, are on top, followed by Dan Hayden, Brian Babcock, Billy Paul, Phil Cahoy, and Robbie Campbell. Interesting to note, there aren't that many new names in that top 7, are there?
There are not many new names, Leandra, but what's interesting is a lot of the people that have been trying to make the top group of gymnasts have been here for a long time, but they've never had a chance because the 84 Olympians were just too tough.
As we can see, a lot of our gymnasts are still warming up as they prepare for the competition. Let's elaborate on some of those rule changes that I'd mentioned at the beginning of our telecast. Basically, what has changed in men's gymnastics?
Well, both in men's and women's gymnastics, after each Olympic competition, the judges get together the next year and formulate new rules to upgrade the sport. What they've done in both the men's and women's gymnastics is they've added a lot of difficulty. We have actually a new category of difficulty. There used to only be A, B, and C moves. Now we have a D skill, a D category, which requires the gymnast to do very difficult skills, but he also has to do them extremely well.
All right, you are looking at Phil Cahoy, and let me remind you that we are going to have 3 pieces of apparatus going on at the same time. There are 6 pieces of apparatus in men's gymnastics. We will see 3 at a time: floor exercise, pommel horse, and still rings. You will see competitors on the floor at the same time during this phase of the competition. Then we will rotate and take in the other 3 events. But in our first rotation at these 3 events, you are looking at Phil Cahoy. You saw at the World Championships. He performed in 1978 and in 1981.
And Phil has been around for a long time. I really am amazed that Phil has stuck it out. He's a tall gymnast. He has to work real hard to do some of these skills. This is one of the events he can have trouble on because of his height. Phil is amazing. He's added a lot of difficulty in the last year. He wants to be on this team very bad. Now there's a good example. That was a 1.5 twist punch front. That is categorized as a D skill, meaning top difficulty. That's why Phil put it in. Nice double back. He stuck it cold. Phil's tumbling as good as I've ever seen him tumble. Oh, there's a little raggedness on it. He did a handspring, full twist to his hands, and stepped out. He didn't have quite enough somersault, so he had to step to the side.
Was it really an execution error, or was it more that his heel slipped? Or could he put himself in a better position?
Well,
so
both are similar, actually. They're both regarded execution faults and are taken away from the category of execution, but not a major break. This is a great routine for Phil. All the tumbling has been very well. There's a scale which is also now a requirement in men's gymnastics. You must perform a scale on one leg. Now getting ready for a dismount. Double twist, and he stuck it. Not a lot of difficulty in the routine, but he did it very well. That's a good start for Phil Cahoy.
Incidentally, if you're not familiar with men's gymnastics, the men do not compete with music. I prefer to hear the music, but that's an argument that I guess has been going on for the ages. Let's take another look at Phil's dismount.
Here's Phil at the end of his exercise. There's a round-off back handspring to get set up. There's the lift, 2 complete twists, spots the ground, and a nice landing.
Probably the only thing that is going to be hurting Phil this evening is that he is our first gymnast in that event, and the judges usually set the standards based on the first gymnast, and it has been the tendency for scores to climb after the first gymnast, so that could work against it that he's number 1.
That's right, but everyone has to be number 1 in a rotation. A competition like this, the orders constantly flip-flop, so it's kind of fair because they all have to go at the beginning and at the end.
This is Tim Daggett. You heard from him in the beginning of our telecast, and as soon as Phil Cahoy's score is ready, we will tell you about it. Interesting story about Tim Daggett. His perfect 10 that he received at the Olympic Games clinched the gold medal for the team. All right, while we wait for Tim Daggett, we now have the score for Phil Cahoy. It is a 9.2, and that's a pretty good standard by which to start this lower exercise competition.
Tim Daggett.
This is going to be a big event for Timmy Daggett at the World Championships. This is not his best event. He's not a tremendous tumbler, but he's had a lot of improvement in the last year. Nice double pike somersault, and he stuck it cold. Good mount. Good. A front through to a double back. Very nice routine so far. Daggett is excellent on the pommel horse. Olympic medalist on that event. And you can see there he uses that ability on the floor exercise. And now a wide on press to a handstand. A little trouble getting up, but not a major break at all. Good routine for Daggett. Not a lot of difficulty, but a very well performed exercise.
Let's compare it with Cahoy's. Is it more difficult than Phil's?
It's about the same.
About the same.
It's about the same, actually. Dismount a little bit short. He had to take that step forward, but he got it in. That's experience. A less experienced gymnast would have put his hands down there, but Timmy didn't do it.
Tim looks like he's just glad to have it over with.
And here's another look at that tumbling. Watch this preparation. Round off. There's a powerful back handspring. Look at the lift. Double pike somersault. A nice landing. That was a great start for Daggett. And on the dismount, he was doing the same skill, but in the tucked position, which is easier. There's his takeoff right there. Nice tuck. You can see he opened up a little bit and had to take that step forward. That was a good save. That could have been a major break.
And that was Tim Daggett, who began his gymnastics career 11 years ago and reached that attainable pinnacle of a gold medal in the Olympic Games in the team competition. But his goals are onward and upward. He is now trying out for the world team, and they eventually want to get up to Montreal to compete in the World Championships.
And that'll be in November, the biggest competition since the Olympic Games. So these gymnasts who are here really want to participate in that World Championship.
And there you see the numbers for Tim Daggett. He scored 9.45, and so far in this rotation, he's a little bit better than Phil Cahoy, who received a 9.2. Let's pick up midstream on the pommel horse. Brian Babcock, I believe he is on that event at this time.
Brian performed a very good side horse routine. He's our national champion on the pommel horse. This is his best event. Nice work there. Good flare work right up. Arms a little bent, but that was a good save. Keeps it moving well. Good scissors. Now flare, hops to the end. Loop, getting ready for the dismount. Here it is. Nice. Right to a handstand with his legs together. Very hard dismount. A great routine for Babcock.
And the crowd enjoyed that performance. Brian Babcock, 5 feet 10 inches tall, goes to school at Southern Illinois University. And we will be back, and we'll give you the score for Brian Babcock's routine in just a moment. But stay with us. Gymnastics World Championship Team Trials. I promised you the score for Brian Babcock on the pommel horse. He received a 9.55. But right now, let's go back to the floor exercise, where Scott Johnson is getting ready to compete.
This is a great event for Scott. He won this event, the floor exercise, at a past NCAA championship back in 1983. Scott was 6th all around in the country this year at the USA Championships. He's had a very busy year since the Olympics. A lot of banquets and tours and all kinds of things.
The tough life, yes.
Yeah.
He competes for the University of Nebraska. He's been in gymnastics for 13 years. So you have to start this sport as a youngster if you want to achieve greatness. That puts him at about age 11 when he started.
Scotty's always been a great tumbler. This is his forte in gymnastics, his tumbling ability. So let's see what he's going to look like right before the World Championships in November. This is his last competition before it. Has to make the team here at the trials. Good, full twisting, double back somersault, and he stuck it cold. I watched him warming up. He looked a little shaky on his full twisting double back mount, but that was perfect. Great double pike. This is the same exercise that Scott performed at the Olympic Games. And in the last World Championships, it's interesting, in 1983, Scott was actually almost in the finals on floor exercise. He was the first alternate. That was the highest placing he's ever had in a World Championship, and he told me before this competition that he feels he's going to be able to get in the finals this year and maybe win a medal. Now for the dismount. A good landing is going to get him a great score. Here it comes. Nice double back, a little step. Boy, that was a great routine. A couple of minor steps here and there, but nothing major at all. Scott Johnson looks great.
Looks like that routine was chocked with full of difficulty. Was it more difficult than we've seen in the other two performers?
Yes, this is by far the most difficult routine we've seen. 3 times he did a double somersault. And here comes his mount. He's doing a double back somersault with a complete 360-degree twist. Let's take a look at it. There's the twist, and there's the 2 back flips. Look at this landing, too. That's a perfect landing.
You're looking at a man named Dan Hayden, and you had mentioned earlier about the pressure on Scott Johnson. He's going on the banquet circuit. Well, Dan Hayden, he's got a different kind of pressure on him, and that is trying to be part of the best team in the world, the gold medal 1984 Olympic team. Well, he wants to be on the world team, and he spoke about it.
I think a little bit, yes. I also put a lot of pressure on myself to work for perfection, and so I want to do well in '88. I would like to be the world champion in '88.
World champion in '88. He has lofty ambitions. Let's see how he strives towards that goal. This is Dan Hayden on the still rings.
And Dan surprised everyone this year when he won our national championships on this event. The current national champion on the still rings. There's an inverted cross, a little bit high. He should be perfectly level. There's a roll to a regular cross. That was done extremely well. The new rules on the rings are very significant because they require a gymnast to do more strength moves than the past rules did. This helps the European gymnasts a lot because traditionally they're stronger than us. But our boys are getting strong now at a younger age. Dan's a good example. He's only a sophomore in college, and he was really bred in the junior program in the United States. This is a great exercise. Nice full twisting double back. He stuck it cold. Everything performed real well. Great swing, great strength. That's a good ring routine.
I take it you see good potential in this man. He's a possible 88er then.
I think definitely. He's really been groomed along the way to be one of the best gymnasts in America when his time comes, and his time now is getting very close. Look at the lift off the rings. He gets right there, way above the rings. Nice form in the air, and a very good landing.
And that was Dan Hayden. He is from Amherst, New York, competes for Arizona State University. You had mentioned our junior program. Is that our feeder system for the Olympics and for our World Championship teams now?
Yes, it is. It's critical that we have a strong junior program, and the coaches, the individual coaches on the junior level, really deserve a lot of credit. They have done a tremendous job. Dan's a good example.
And we now have the score for Dan Hayden. It is a 9.35. We do have a score for Scott Johnson, but it was protested or argued about. The judges are conferring, and we will have the number for Scott Johnson on floor exercise in just a moment. Stay with us. We have some important messages and then more gymnastics. St. Paul, Minnesota. Our athletes are warming up on their next event, but let me bring you up to date first on Scott Johnson's score on the floor exercise. He received, after a judges' conference, a score of 9.25 in floor exercise, as you are watching some of our athletes warm up on the pommel horse. Let's go to our leaderboard now. At this point in the competition, Tim Daggett is our leader. Now remember, this is yesterday's compulsories plus today's first rotation. So Tim Daggett, Scott Johnson, Dan Hayden, Brian Babcock, Phil Cahoy, Billy Paul, Robbie Campbell, and I should add, in 8th place, John Amori is very, very close to Robbie Campbell.
A tight competition. You know, you're going to see a lot of movement, I think, in the bottom places throughout this competition, so none of those spots are locked up. This is going to be exciting.
All right, let's add what's going to happen here. Six gymnasts make the team, but there are 2 alternates. So 8 positions are very, very important. Of course, Tim Daggett was one of our Olympians in 1984, and his life has changed. It has changed quite a bit since the team captured that gold medal, and he shared with us his thoughts about that.
Well, it's really difficult. You know, I didn't realize the demands on someone's time after you win an Olympic gold medal for the gymnasts. It was incredible. We had so many commitments that we had to fulfill, and that takes away a lot of time, and also your mind. It's not as sharp. But I told myself that I can't do the sport halfway. I don't want to ever do it like that, and the day that I start doing it that way, I've promised myself I'll quit, and I don't want to quit yet. So I have to try to maintain that intensity.
And intensity we're about to see as he competes on the pommel horse. You said his best event.
I think it is his best event. He was 3rd in the world at the Olympics on this, a bronze medal. Doing a new routine now. He's a little off balance earlier. There's a minor form break for Timmy, and he hit the horse again. This is not the typical Daggett routine. He's had 2 minor breaks already. Very difficult exercise, though. There's a hop to the end. Now watch it. Goes back to the middle. Now watch. There's a flare. Hops right to a handstand, but he's stuck there. He had to hesitate to go up. That's another deduction. That's about the most mistakes I've seen Daggett make in a pommel horse routine in a long time. He had 3 form breaks and then that pause at the end going to a handstand. So that was a little rough for Timmy.
Well, it's probably the newness of the routine.
Here comes part of that. There's a hop to the end. Now he walks back to the middle. He's a little off balance there. Put his hand on the horse. Caught his balance. Now here comes a dismount. He's supposed to go right up to a handstand, but look at his foot. His right foot almost hit the horse again. That's the deduction. That's a hesitation. And you are not allowed to hesitate or stop on the pommel horse.
So Tim Daggett a little disappointed with his strongest event, but we saw on the leaderboard that he had a 2-point lead just about, so he'll still stay in the top 6. But I think just personally he's really disappointed with that because it is his favorite event. But he certainly has some place to climb up from. 9.30, not bad considering the flaws that he had. But right now let's move over to the still rings where Brian Babcock is competing.
There's Brian in a cross. He pulls out now right to a handstand, presses right up. Nice, very nice strength part. There's his swing work. Notice straight arms right to a handstand. No wobbles. That's perfect execution. Now the other direction. A little trouble there, but he saved it well. Now the dismount. Half in, half out. Nice landing. Good straight forward. A couple of minor mistakes, but a fine dismount at the end.
Minor flaws are even more minor when you're executing a flaw during a very difficult point. When he had trouble on his handstand, did they take that into account, that that's difficult? Is it that difficult?
Well, difficulty is, execution is never mitigated with difficulty, but at the same time, any time a deduction occurs, hard skill or easy skill, you're still going to get that execution deduction.
And the deductions he got, his score 9.55 for the still rings for Brian Babcock. We'll be back with more gymnastics. Stay with us. And you might be wondering about our Olympic team. How does it change your life? Well, we spoke with this man, Scott Johnson, and not only has he been in the Olympics, but he's won a gold medal as well.
Well, I suppose the only thing that I can say to that is that you have to keep a positive attitude all the time. Where a lot of people, you know, fall into a negative attitude after something that's so highlighted as the Olympic Games or winning the gold medal in the Olympic Games, and then after that they say, oh, well, there's nothing better than that, and there's nothing better that I can improve on, so my career is going to be going downhill from now on. And I don't feel that at all. I feel like after the Olympic Games, I still have a lot to prove to myself. I feel like I can improve a lot gymnastically, and that I can learn a lot of new skills and put on a better performance and place higher in the world rankings. So it's that positive attitude that I've always kept, and it's going to keep me improving, I hope.
And here's Scott on the pommel horse doing a good routine, a couple of minor mistakes, but this is his worst event. There's his dismount, a new dismount with his legs together, a very difficult one. That was a real good routine for Scotty. He's not naturally a good pommel horse worker. He's a better tumbler and vaulter. But he does a hard routine now on the horse, and that was good for him to get through it.
As we take another look at it, there's a point I want you to address. Specialists are really a thing of the past now, aren't they? You really have to be an all-around. And how many events can you be weak in and still be a top-notch all-around gymnast?
Not many, I'll tell you that. And that was a good effort on Scott's part to get to the handstand. But, you know, you really can't have a real weak event. You may be a little better in some than others. Like Scott, his best event is not pommel horse, but he is very good on the pommel horse. So, you know, any event that makes you weak is going to knock you right out. Not natural.
All right, this is Billy Paul. Obviously, he's competing on the still rings.
And Billy has been in gymnastics a long time, waiting for a spot on the team. He's working real hard. Nice dismount on the end of a ring routine. Took a little step back, but a fine dismount.
Billy Paul, Scott Johnson, both waiting for their scores. As we said, the reason the judging may seem a little slow is because we do have new rules. And we do have Scott Johnson's score. He received a 9.1, which is a respectable score for Scott on the pommel horse. And we will be back with Billy Paul's score on the still rings after these important messages from our sponsors. Stay with us here at St. Floor Exercise Routine. Let me fill you in on Billy Paul. However, he received a 9.45 for his performance on the still rings. But now let's talk about Dan Hayden on floor exercise.
And Dan is a good tumbler. He does an unusual routine, a lot of difficulty, a lot of originality. His opening tumbling run is a very unique pass. He does an Arabian to a double front somersault, and it's very hard to land because it's a blind landing. You'll see what I mean coming up now. There he comes. Right there.
Oh, what a way to
nice
start.
landing, and he got it in great, too.
Pretty move.
Rolled out of it beautifully. This is a new pass right here for Dan. Full punch front. That raises the difficulty of that skill to a D value, as we spoke of earlier. So this is a good routine. There's a V seat and presses right through to a planche and then pushes to a handstand.
This young man is very strong.
And very sure of himself. He really doesn't have that much experience. A lot on the junior level, but not in a trial situation like this one, and there's a big difference. Here comes his dismount. He does a double back for a dismount. This is a good exercise on floor. Nice landing, a little step forward, but a great routine by young Dan Hayden.
A fine performance by Dan Hayden, and the crowd gives him a well-deserved applause. 20 years old, born in Buffalo, New York, currently lives at Tempe, Arizona, because he attends Arizona State University. And he's definitely a name we want to remember. Let's see the numbers, 9.65. And remember, after the first rotation, he was in third place. That'll make him climb in the standings. Let's take another look at that opening. Oh, what a way to start floor X.
That's right. He does an Arabian double front somersault. And as you watch him in the air, you'll notice that he is landing forward when he hits the ground. There's the forward landing right there. So he couldn't see the ground before he landed. Just had to time it perfectly.
Scary stuff. But Dan Hayden executes it beautifully. And now we're looking at Brian Ginsberg, who also is going to compete on the floor exercise this evening.
And Brian is a tremendous tumbler. This is his chance. He's won the National Sports Festival on floor exercise. This is his first major competition, trial-type competition.
He's just 16 years of age. He looks young. Let's hope he doesn't perform young.
And what a tumbler he is.
Interestingly enough, he won floor exercise at Sports Festival, yet he claims his favorite apparatus is the horizontal bar. Some people would argue with that.
Does a very difficult floor routine. Probably one of the best junior tumblers that ever have come out of the United States.
Brian Ginsberg trains at UCLA with Art Sherlock in their club program. He's not quite in college yet.
Nice double layout somersault. Stuck it cold. That's a tough mount. 2 complete somersaults in the laid out position. Look at the height. Beautiful lift, takeoff. Tremendous amplitude. Back with a fold. Punch front 1 1/4. Very good. A lot of difficulty in this routine. And there's a flange. Legs together. Pushes to a handstand. Very nice.
Some dance elements that we haven't seen from a lot of the other gymnasts.
And this is required scale. Getting ready for his last tumbling run. Rocket high double back, and look at that landing. He landed standing straight up and down. That was great.
Brian Ginsberg receives a loud ovation as the crowd appreciates his fine performance.
And here comes that open tumbling run. He's doing a double layout somersault, 2 complete flips in the laid out position. Here it is. Watch the punch off the ground right there. Nice stretch in the air. Beautiful landing. And what a dismount. I mean, he does his double back so easy. Look at the height. Watch how he lands. Straight up and down. That's great.
I know a lot of the gymnasts spread their knees cow punching it when they do the double rotations. Is there a deduction for doing that?
Yes, there is. There is a deduction for any time you split your legs in gymnastics on a somersaulting skill, but a lot of gymnasts still get away with it.
And we will see if Brian Ginsberg gets away with it. We will have his score, plus we will update you on all the scores from this rotation. But first, we have a word from our sponsor. Score for Brian Ginsberg on floor exercise, 9.55. But now we are on the pommel horse, and our next competitor is Robbie Campbell.
And Robbie has a chance to do very well in this competition. He's right in the pack right now. He can't afford any mistakes or he's going to drop out of that top group. So this is a very important routine for him.
Robbie Campbell's 22 years old. He's from Montclair, New Jersey.
Nice start. 2 on 1. Hit the horse there a little off balance. You could see his legs separate.
Say his toes aren't glued together.
And there he goes. He's off. Well, that's too bad because he was right in the pack, right fighting for the team, and all of a sudden it's gone. It happens that fast. He'll move down in the standings after that. Working a little rough here. See his feet splitting. Just trying to get through this exercise and minimize the damage. But it's going to be big deductions. Oh, that's too bad. There's another stop, another major break.
A disappointing performance by Robbie Campbell.
Not what he wanted.
Let's look at what happened here. Maybe you could...
There he's on one pommel, doing a very difficult pommel loop. Watch right there. He's leaning back just a little bit, and it's off. Just too much backward lean, and it can happen that fast on the pommel, especially when you're on the pommel. It's a very thin piece of wood. There's not a lot of room to put your hands on.
All right, before Robbie Campbell competed on the pommel horse, these were the standings, obviously without that score being in it. You can see in the 6th spot, Billy Paul was a 71.65, Robbie Campbell a 71.30. Campbell really had a chance to overtake Billy Paul, but that certainly didn't happen with that performance. Daggett, Johnson, and Hayden are still our top 3. And Brian Ginsberg, the young man who received the 9.55 on floor exercise, well, he's in 9th. And it's possible he could crack the top 8, especially now that Robbie Campbell had that tough time. All right, let's go over to Scott Johnson now, who's waiting to perform on the still rings. And let's talk a little bit about his hand gear. He was just blowing some chalk in his hands, and the dowels and some of the stuff that they put in their hands for equipment. They don't really use all of that on the rings.
Yeah, it's really amazing. Now the leather is much longer. The leather hand strap is much longer. And also the dowel that's fit inside there to have him hold on. There's a judges conference now on the rings, so Scotty's going to have to wait. But there's a good look at his grips. You can see all the leather and all the work, and there's the dowel in there, fit right under his fingers, and that keeps a gymnast hanging on the rings. You know, when you're in a handstand and you drop your body down full speed, it's possible to reach speeds of up to 70 miles an hour at the bottom. Wow. Your feet can actually move that fast. So it's a tremendous amount of force on your hands, and it's very difficult to hold on. So the hand grip with the dowel in there gives you the ability to hold on. He's roughing his grips up now.
With a steel brush?
With a steel brush, yep. He's making sure that his grips are rough so he doesn't slip off the rings.
And they're well anchored, you can see by the straps around.
They have to be tied down good because there's a lot of force going on there, and there's no way you could hold on without those dowels in there. The grip has to, your muscular grip is just not strong enough to hang on, but a little wooden dowel that fits in under the ring in the leather make a direct line of leather from your fingers to your wrist, so your hand muscles don't have to be as strong, and you can hang on in a sense through just that leather strap.
And while Scott is in the chalk bucket, I'll tell you the score for Robbie Campbell on the pommel horse. He had 2 falls plus numerous other faults. His score was a 7.5, and that will certainly drop him in the top 10 standings. The top 8 make the team. And I believe our judges conference has concluded at the still ring. Scott Johnson being given the green flag to do his mount. His coach is allowed to boost him on the rings, steady him, and then he's on his own.
That's right, and this is a great event for Scotty. The new rules really help him because he's very strong. There's that grip we were talking about. Look at the dowel hanging over the rings.
Look at his forearms. He rivals Steve Garvey's. Boy, he has strong arms.
Look at this mount. He kips right to a Maltese cross. It's a very difficult straight part. Then lowers to an L cross and pulls out to an L. That's amazing.
My armpits hurt just watching him.
And there's his press to the handstand. Now let's see his swing. Nice straight arms. Right up. And now the other direction. Gymnasts swing both forward and backward on the rings. Getting ready for a dismount now. Pike, half in, half out. That was a great routine with a near-perfect landing. That's got to get a good score, even with the new rules.
Scott Johnson having enough difficulty to encompass the new standards.
And what a beautiful dismount Scotty did. What's different about this is most of the gymnasts we've seen bend their knees on their twisting doubles. His legs stay straight, requiring more rotation, and that is a very difficult dismount.
I would think there'd be a certain amount of fear about hitting the rings. This is Billy Paul now on floor exercise, a slight hand touch after his tumbling pass there.
That was a hard tumbling skill, a full twisting double back, and he did touch his hands lightly. Billy Paul does a really difficult floor routine. That was a handspring front 1 3/4 somersault. He has as hard a routine just about as any gymnast in our country. And he has done this routine for a long time. He's a very good tumbler. There's a whip back to a double twist, a little low on the landing, but he saved it. And there's a scale, which is now a required skill under the new rules in gymnastics. Now getting ready for the dismount. Double tuck. He sometimes does a double pike, but he bent his knees to get it around. He looked a little tired.
Billy Paul concluding his floor exercise performance. He received a 9.2 for that routine. Scotty Johnson received a 9.6 on the still rings. We'll be back with more gymnastics in just a moment. Compete on the still rings here at these McDonald's World Championship team trials. 8 gymnasts will make the team. 2 will be alternates. That means they have to stay in shape. They have to keep the routines up to par because an injury could wipe one of the top 6 out at a moment's notice.
And Phil is getting ready to do his ring routine. He's added an awful lot of difficulty on the still rings to try to up his score. This traditionally has not been a great event for Phil. Phil competing, of course, on the 1978 and 81 World Championship team. So he is trying in this competition to make his 3rd World Championship team. And his dad is his coach now, lifting him to the rings. That is Phil Cahoy Sr., who is spotting him.
Phil Cahoy Jr. was in 5th place after the 2nd rotation, so he's in the top 6. Coach Cahoy was quite a gymnast in his time.
He sure was. Kept to a straddle planche. Not bad, not a bad start. Right to a V seat, a front upright to a V, and there's 2 strength parts that have to be in there. Now for the swing work.
Something interesting to note about Phil Cahoy is he's a lot taller than your average gymnast.
That's right, Phil's 5'11". And that was the double whip it, done very well to a straddle L. Phil's 5'11", and it is harder for the taller gymnast to perform on some events, and this is one of them because rings requires so much strength. Half in, half out. Nice landing, boy. I've never seen him do a routine any better than that on the still rings. Phil Cahoy looks great.
He's one of the people who's always tried to make this international elite and had to wait till some of our gymnasts retired, and now he has a real good crack at being one of our top gymnasts in the United States.
Now watch this combination of skills. He's going to fall forward. He is doing, actually, there's a whip it and swings right into another whip it and then flips over again to a back uprise. So he's actually done 3 complete turns without letting go of the rings, and here's his dismount. This is a full twisting double back somersault. There it is, and a perfect landing for that. That was a good job, Phil.
He is hoping the judges award him appropriately. A little earlier, we saw Billy Paul compete on the floor exercise. We should add he has injured ribs. Phil Cahoy for the still rings received a 9.50 for that performance. 9.5 for Phil Cahoy. As we look now at Tim Daggett, our leader in this competition after 2 rotations. He's number 1 on this team trial meet.
Now we saw Timmy on the horse had a little trouble, looked a little shaky. It surprised me because I've seen him do this routine real good. In the compulsory round of competition, Timmy Daggett looked as good as he's ever looked. He was perfect. He went right through the competition with no breaks at all. There's a little sideward swing. He handles it well, though. Daggett is real experienced now. He's been in a lot of meets, a lot of exhibitions this last year, and he pretty much has control all the time. There's an inverted cross. Comes a dismount, a double layout, a little step on the dismount, but a good routine for Timmy.
When the rings move, how much of a deduction is that? A major one, a minor one? Or does it depend on how much
If they move a
swing?
lot, and if they move for a long period of time for a number of skills in the routine, the deductions can be major. But if they just move a little bit, it's not a major break.
So, no major breaks for Tim Daggett. We will have his score. But first, we have some important messages. Please stay with us here in St. Paul, Minnesota. The champion, the man you are looking at, is Charles Lake. He is the final competitor in this rotation. Charles Lakes is in the top 10 of this meet so far. He is having a pretty good meet for himself.
He is. He had a little trouble in the compulsory round on his best event, the high bar. He went the wrong way on a compulsory skill and then landed on his back on his dismount, and that really hurt him. Had he not made that mistake, he'd be right up in the top group and a real threat to make the team. He can still come back, however, but this is a must situation now. He has to hit a good pommel horse routine or he can forget it.
Specifically, he is in 8th place now after 2 rotations.
He's He's moved up to 8th. That's good. He's on the climb. And this is a great routine for Charlie. Getting ready for the dismount now. No breaks. Nice job so far. Right up with his legs together. That adds the difficulty factor up. That was an excellent routine.
Charles Lakes, who competes for the University of Illinois at Champaign during the collegiate school year, with a fine performance on the pommel horse.
That was good for Charlie. Boy, he needed that routine or he could really have trouble making the team. Look at the dismount. His legs come up and they're together the whole time. That's a higher difficulty rating than it would be if you straddled your legs.
Charles Lake seeming pleased with that performance. He was born in St. Louis but lives in Newhall, California. But he's a junior now at the University of Illinois in Champaign, majoring in psychology. His 7-year gymnastics career began at age 13 years of age. He's 20 years old now. Let's move over now to the floor exercise. We're waiting for Charles' score. Brian Babcock getting ready to compete. And we now have the number 4, Charles Lakes. It is 9.50. And the score for Tim Daggett, as we saw earlier on the still rings, was a 9.45. 9.45 for Tim Daggett on the rings. Charles Lakes a 9.5 on Florex. And let's move now back to the floor exercise for Brian Babcock.
And Brian, of course, our national all-around champion. He beat Timmy Daggett and Scott Johnson at the USA Championships. And Brian has waited a long time. He made the World Championship team 2 years ago, but because of an injury was unable to compete. This is his first chance to compete in a major international competition, so he's got to make this team. Good double back in the middle of his exercise. He does not do a tremendously difficult floor routine in terms of tumbling, but he does everything clean, and it never seems to hurt his all-around score too much. And this, of course, is an all-around competition. Everything you see is counting for that total. So any mistake you make is going to come back and hurt you when the final tallies are up at the end. Here's a dismount. Double full, took a little step to the side. You could see he landed a little stiff-legged and had to take that step. But he'll take that routine because there was no major breaks.
Charles Lakes mimicking his own floor dismount.
And here we go with the dismount. Double full. Watch the landing. Watch his knees. You can see he landed lock-legged. He's had a lot of problems with those knees. But he got that one in. Good job for Brian Babcock.
All right, Charles Lakes 9.5 on pommel horse, Tim Daggett 9.45 on rings, and we will have Brian Babcock's score in a moment, plus we will update you on the standings after 3 rotations. Team trials. After 3 rotations, our leaderboard looks the same after 2. Daggett, Johnson, Hayden, Babcock, Cahoy, Paul, and Lakes, and number 8 spot is Robbie Campbell, and Brian Ginsberg is 9th. Right now, let's move over to vaulting. We have 3 new pieces of apparatus to watch, vaulting being one of them. Scott Johnson gets a chance to execute just one. Let's see how he does.
Scott's a great vaulter. Tremendous flight and distance. Does a hard vault. Here it comes. Nice push. A little low in the landing, but a nice Sukahara with the full twist. Beautiful laid-out position in the air. Watch the push off his hands.
How much full speed is this? Is this really the fastest he can run?
This is the fastest he can run and still have some control, but look at the push off the horse. Body perfectly straight in the air. And bends a little low for the landing, but that's not a major deduction at all.
And the score for Scott Johnson, 9.65. Let's go now to the high bar, where Dan Hayden is chalking up and getting ready to compete. The 3 pieces of apparatus that we're going to see now are vaulting, high bar, and the parallel bars. Right now we're on the high bar.
And Dan Hayden is tremendous on this event. You will be amazed at the things he can do in his routine.
He's going through it mentally now. You could see the concentration as he blocked it out in his mind. He was quite amazing on the floor exercise. A very, very strong athlete.
Dan does a skill in this high bar routine that actually flips 1.5 times over the bar and then re-catches the bar. It's called a Kovacs, which is named after a European gymnast who first did it. And Dan does it very well, extremely high. You'll see when it comes up because you can't miss it. There it comes now. Watch this.
The speed. Whoa.
Oh, and he missed the bar. He's supposed to catch the bar and keep going, but he had a little too much distance and could not catch the bar. And of course, Dan is thinking about making this team now. He is in a comfortable position, but that's a major break. That's half a point right there.
Is it still a half a point when you're doing a move that difficult as a Kovacs?
Yes, there is no difficulty. Does not matter. If you fall off, it's still an execution deduction.
Seems to me it would penalize you to try something difficult like that. There's a risk of falling off. Well, I guess you make up for it in risk.
Yeah, that's what the gymnasts do. And now to get through the rest of this exercise with no other breaks, because he's lost 5/10 off his score just then. Here comes a dismount, the same type of skill, over the bar with the full twist. And a nice landing, but then again, he had that break, and that's going to cost him some valuable tenths of a point in this race for the World Championship team. And let's see what happened on that.
He said he had too much distance. What caused him to have too much distance as we take another look?
The distance off the bar is going to be a combination of velocity and the angle you let go of the bar. And you could see he just cruised right over the bar. There was no way he was going to catch that.
So he should have gone up where he went out.
Yes, he should have went up, straight up in the air a little bit more, and he would have come down onto the bar.
Let's go to our third event in this rotation on the parallel bars. This is Billy Paul.
And Billy had a rib injury yesterday in the compulsory round of competition, and it has been giving him problems. We saw him have to work real hard to get through a floor routine. And now doing a parallel bar routine, a very difficult exercise for Billy. He does a lot of difficulty. Extremely hard routine. There's a double back. Got that in. That was a good routine. And in a little bit of pain. I'm sure he's working real hard right now.
And there you see the score for Billy Paul, 9.25. We'll let you know what Dan Hayden received in the high bar in just a moment. But first, a word from our sponsors. Team trials, Dan Hayden's score on the high bar, 8.6. He lost some difficulty when he fell off the bar, and as a result, he was penalized appropriately. Let's move now over to the vaulting competition, where Tim Daggett is getting ready to perform.
And Timmy is doing a new vault. This is the first time in competition he's done it. Watch his hand on the vault. He only put one hand down on the horse. That raises the difficulty level, and that is a new trend in vaulting.
So Tim Daggett, vaulting, receiving a 9.5 for that performance. Respectable score. Interesting. One hand on the vault. Seems to me that'd be awfully difficult to push off.
It is difficult.
With one hand.
If you don't come on perfectly square, you can go crooked around to the side, and then, of course, you wouldn't get the push you need off the horse to complete the vault.
And you are looking at the back of Charles Lake. He is ready to compete on the high bar, but as you can see, the judges are not. They are having a conference about a prior gymnast. And the reason everything, as we've emphasized earlier, the reason everything is so questionable this evening is that we have a new set of rules. Every Olympic year, they try to revamp the sport and send it in a new direction. So I'm going to put you on the spot, Peter Corman. What is the new direction in men's gymnastics?
I think the new direction right now is the judges are telling the gymnasts that they want to see difficulty, but it has to be performed well. And if you do a skill and you can't do it, there are severe deductions. If you try something in your routine and you can't make it, there are severe deductions. But if you do a basic, easy routine, you're not going to get the top score. So they want to see the hard skills, but they want to know that when a gymnast puts it in, he can make it most of the time. We don't want him just throwing the skill in there for the difficulty.
And now Charles Lakes has been given the go-ahead to mount. You need just the right combination of spit and chalk before you get on the apparatus. And it isn't just right.
Well, you'll see why in this routine. When he lets go of that bar, his body just rises up over the bar. He probably gets more amplitude off the bar than any gymnast in the United States. Watch the lift on his release skills. Long giant swing. Hops. There's the shoulder. Watch this lift. Look at that reverse hex way over the bar. Way up over the bar. Here's another one. Nice front catch. Look at the lift and height on that. That is beautiful.
Now there's a case of difficulty being well executed.
Very good. Now he's only got a dismount left. Here it comes. This is a great exercise, a lot of virtuosity. Double layout. One step back, but that was the only mistake in that routine. That was great.
A little over rotation on the dismount, but other than that, you're right. That was flawless. He's happy.
And what's funny, Leandra, about that routine, the difficulty factor is not as high as you might think it would be, but watch the lift off the bar on this. Look at that, way over the bar. And he's not done. His front somersault catch, his Jaeger flip, is coming up, and he lifts just as hard as that. Here it comes. Watch the beat on the bottom. See his heels get behind? That's what supplies him the lift to go way up over the bar like that.
I love watching the crowd. They're holding their breath and going, ooh, and then you see the applause.
No, he must be 6 or 7 feet over the bar when he catches it.
Well, the difficulty may not have been here, but certainly the wow appeal was. Let's move now over to the parallel bars. This is Brian Babcock. With an unusual mount towards the end.
Yes, it is. He faces out, and he does a peach with a quarter turn to one bar. There it is. And now watch this. 2 Diamondoughs in a row. Right on the end. There's one. Bam, right in the handstand. That's great. It's a good event for Brian.
Little pommel horse work.
Yeah, nice flares in the end. Little trouble on that cast catch, and you could see he had to swing up. He was a little slow, broke rhythm just a tiny bit. Not a major break. And there's another step right there. And the double back took a step forward. Good routine for Brian. A couple of little mistakes that are going to keep him from maybe getting a top score, but a good routine overall. And here's that mount. There's a peach. He turns right to one bar and then back in. Now watch this. 2 Diamondoughs. One. Here comes the other one right on the end of the bars. Good original combination of skills for opening part of the routine.
Brian Babcock on the parallel bars. Nice mounting sequence. And his score, 9.35 for his parallel bar performance. And Charles Lakes, whom you saw compete on the high bar, he received a 9.55. And that concludes this rotation. We will continue with more gymnastics here at the St. Paul Civic Center. But first we have a word in sixth place, because those are the starters. And you can see that Billy Paul and Charles Lakes are about 0.8 of a point apart. Can Charles Lakes make the team?
Well, I think he's got a chance to make the team, but Billy Paul is a good gymnast, and 0.8 is a lot to make up on just 2 events. So unless Billy makes a mistake, I think it's going to be tough for Charlie to catch him.
And you are looking at Billy Paul right now. He is getting ready to perform on the high bar. There are 2 events remaining. The scores you saw were after 4 rotations, and now we have 2 events left. For Billy Paul, those events are high bar and vault.
And you know he's probably going to do a good vault. That's an easy event to hit. So basically, right now, this is a critical routine for Billy Paul. He could lose that spot on the competitive team. There's this reverse hex done very well. You can't have a major break here. Whoa, no, and he did have a major break. He missed a Delchev or Ganger flyaway with a half twist catch the bar. He went too far from the bar, could not get it, and now it is going to be real close. That's a 5/10 break, and let's see, he may also lose some in difficulty if he needed that skill, so that could make him and Charlie just about even if Charlie does a good job on his next routine.
For Charles Lakes, he has the vault and the pommel horse he has to compete on.
Vault and the parallel bars.
I'm sorry, key bars.
Billy Paul has a triple flyaway coming up, too. This is at the end of his set. 1, 2, 3. He got it in and stuck the landing cold. Great dismount, but there it was. A major break, and he didn't need it at that time. Boy, it was close, and this is a battle for the competitive team.
All right, this is Dan Hayden on the vault.
Handspring front, took a big step forward, but not a major break. He's in a comfortable position in terms of making the team, and that vault's not going to hurt him too much. He's in 4th place currently.
Only 1/10 away from 3rd.
And here comes his takeoff. Nice push off the horse. Good flight. Just a little too much rotation. That was a big step, I'll tell you. He could have put his hands down, but he did a good job in taking a step instead. And here it was for Billy Paul, disaster. He needed a good routine to lock that spot up, but it did not happen. He missed a big release move. There he lets go, flyaway half twist. You can see just the tips of his finger touch the bar, and he's got to get his whole hand around it in order to hold on.
8.60 the score for Billy Paul, and that number hurts.
Bad time for that.
Dan Hayden waiting for his score on the vault. They just flashed it, 9.25 for Dan Hayden. But as we said, his spot on the team is pretty much assured. He's in 4th place. Now we're looking at Scott Johnson, who's getting ready to perform on the parallel bars.
And boy, Scotty and Timmy Daggett are doing very well in the competition. And you know, it's interesting. They do look like the leaders now, and this is the first year they've been in this position. They've always been behind the Gaylord and Vidmore and Bart Connor, and now they're up. It feels good for me to see them being the top performers, and everyone's looking up to them and what they did in Los Angeles at the Olympic Games. They're really doing a good job in that role. Chalking up the bars, you know, when the gymnasts do giant swings, which Scott Johnson does, the bars can get a little slippery in a major meet like this because there's so many people using them. But they have to recoat the surface of the bar with a combination of water and chalk to get those bars nice and gritty, so when they swing through the bottom with a lot of force, they don't slip off.
The rails are a fiberglass wood-textured apparatus, and as you can see, they vibrate and give quite a lot, but they also provide a lot of spring for the gymnast when he wants to do somersaults and get some feedback from them.
Nice mount for Scotty. There's a giant swing that I talked about, why the boys had to be just right. There's a Diamondov doing a very good routine. Front 1 1/4, a minor break. He hit his foot, and I've seen Scott do that before in this routine. He doesn't even slow down. He hits the bar and just keeps moving right away. Not a big deduction. Double pike, a tough dismount, and he nailed it cold. That was a great routine.
Looked to me like his Diamondov was a little bit short of vertical. Did that?
Doesn't matter in
Doesn't
terms
matter
of
in that?
difficulty, no. It doesn't have to be held to a handstand.
When I watch the somersaults, layout and pikes are my favorite positions as opposed to the tuck, and his double pike here is pretty.
His double pike is great, and it's so hard to do a double pike consistently on parallel bars because you're spinning so fast when you hit the ground. The bars aren't as high as the high bar and rings, and it's just tough to land it. But that was a great one.
Scott Johnson on the parallel bars. A fine performance. We will have his score for you when we return from these commercial messages. Don't go away.
Who says you can't have it all? Who says you can't be buttoned up and down to earth underneath it all?
Who says you can't have super premium taste and a less filling beer?
Michelob Light. Oh, yes, you can. Michelob Light. Oh, yes.
Getting ready to vault, but let me quickly tell you the score for Scott Johnson on the parallel bars. He received a 9.45. But getting back to the drum of Charles Lakes, he is battling for 6th, the starting position on this World Championship team. Billy Paul, who currently holds 6th place, received an 8.6 on his high bar routine. So if Charles Lakes can just do a couple of solid performances in his last 2 events, he could make the starting team.
There it is. He's got to land good. That was a great vault. Not as high a difficulty value as some of the other vaults in the competition, but he did it very well. He had a lot of flight, a nice, perfect pike position in the air, and a great landing for that vault. Here it comes now. Watch the lift and push he gets off the horse. Right there. Look at how high he is. Nice form. And a good landing, just one small step in front. So he's going to definitely pick up some ground on that. Had the vault been a little higher valued in difficulty, he'd be able to get even a better score. But,
well, if he receives
nice
a
vault
9.4, he ties Billy Paul after this routine. And now we understand that his score is 9.5. So technically, after 5 rotations, he is 1/10 of a point ahead of Billy Paul, but each gymnast has 1 apparatus remaining. Billy Paul gets to vault, and Charles Lakes has the parallel bars to compete on. And speaking of the parallel bars, let's go over to Phil Cahoy. Our tallest gymnast, how does that play into being on the P-bars, being tall?
well, I think it's an advantage on the parallel bars because your body is longer, it can create a lot more force, and also you look a little nicer. If a gymnast like Phil, being 5'11", can handle that body and make it tight and make it do all the skills it's supposed to. When he does it, he looks longer than everyone else and is a little more aesthetic looking.
5'11", Phil Cahoy. That was always the plus-minus factor in women's gymnastics. The longer, taller gymnasts looked more graceful in the dance elements, but they had a tougher time getting around in the tumbling moves because they weren't as compact.
Right, right. Same thing in men's gymnastics.
So you want long legs, but you want to be short. It's hard to find that combination. I think Julianne McNamara had a great gymnast body. Very long legs, but she's so short.
Yeah.
4'10" or 4'11".
Yeah. And here comes Phil Cahoy. He has a new parallel bar routine this year. He's added some difficulty. Nice mount, unusual. Lifts his feet right through to a V. And we call that the Cahoy, named after Phil. Now watch this. This is a new skill for Phil. Right there, and he did it very well that time. In a meet earlier this year at the USA in China that you saw on ESPN, Phil missed that. Took a major break, but this is a great routine for Cahoy. Currently in 5th place, securing his spot on the team. Nice dismount. He has one more event to go. Just a little step back. That was it, though. Everything else in that routine was done very well.
I'm curious about the move we call the Cahoy. Do we call it the Cahoy Jr. or do we just call it the Cahoy?
I guess the Cahoy Jr. Here it is. He lifts his feet through his hands, stoops around, and goes right to a V on one rail. Very nice.
Pretty.
And
that's a lot of legs to have to loop through there.
Yeah, that's for sure. Now he's in the end of his routine. There's a stutz right to a dead handstand. And a nice double back, a little over-rotated, but no problem for Phil.
Interesting note, the plus factor that you pointed out, the longer lines, the handstands look much better on a tall person than they do on the shorter ones. They look more difficult or something. So Phil waits patiently for his score on the parallel bars.
And Phil is having a great competition. It's so good to see. We were on the 1978 World Championship team together. That was a long time ago, and Phil's still doing gymnastics, and he's doing it better than he ever has.
And we should add what you are doing now. You are coaching at the Naval Academy. So you are still in the gymnastic thick of things. So while we were having a conference among our judges, let's move over to the horizontal bar. And on the high bar is Brian Babcock.
Our national champion. Wrong way giant swings. He has the wrong grip for doing those giants, and he goes all the way around the bar. It's unusual.
When you say wrong, it's not incorrect. It's just different from what we're used to seeing.
They're actually named wrong grip giants. But you're doing a giant swing with the wrong grip.
Named after Mr. Wrong, right?
This is a good routine. He's performing like he belongs on that World Championship team, and I think he does.
Pretty
nice
dismount.
Cold.
Currently third in the standings after 4 rotations, and he'll stay right up there with that performance. Brian Babcock.
And here he is in the dorsal or inverted grip, which is a requirement on high bar. Getting ready for his dismount, a full twisting double flyaway. Spots the ground and a good landing.
Brian Babcock. And while Brian Babcock waits for his score, let me bring you up to date on what happened to Phil Cahoy. He received a 9.6 for his performance on the parallel bars. And this is Tim Daggett, who's getting ready to compete on that same apparatus. Tim Daggett, our leader after 4 rotations by a comfortable margin. He has a score right now of 94.3 going into this 5th event.
And Daggett is aggressive on the parallel bars. That's the best word for him. Look at that. Peach basket. He went right to the handstand. Does a giant all the way around. Daggett having a wonderful meet. A little trouble on the pommel horse in the early rounds, but nothing major. And that's the only mistake, even being critical, it's the only mistake you could see he's made all 2 days in the competition. Here comes his dismount now. Double back. Little hop on the landing, but another great routine. He's like a machine. And, you know, a year like he had with all the things he had to do after the Olympics, it's really good to see him back in it at such a high level already.
So relaxed, he winks at the judges at the end of the routine.
That doesn't mean they have a deal, by the way. And here comes his dismount. A double back somersault in a tucked position. Nice lift off the bar. Good tuck. Couple of minor steps on the landing, but nothing major.
And Tim Daggett awaits his score, as does Brian Babcock on the high bar. We'll have all of that information for you, but now we are going to take a timeout. And when we return, scores plus more gymnastics ahead. Well, it can't get much closer than this. Let's take a look at the standings. Obviously, the top 5 spots, they're pretty much a lock. But look at spots number 6 and 7. Charles Lakes, Billy Paul. 1/10 of 1 point separates these two gentlemen, and they each have one event remaining.
That's right. And Billy Paul has only to do a vault. That means one time over the horse and a landing. That's it. But Charles Lakes has to do a whole parallel bar routine. They're both good on those events, so it's going to be exciting.
Now remember, 8 gymnasts will go to the World Championships. 6 will be the starters, and 2 will be the alternates. So Brian Ginsberg and Robbie Campbell are battling for that 8th, second alternate position. They, too, are only 1/10 of a point apart. All right, right now you're looking for the battle, though, for 6th, the starting position. This is Billy Paul. He has, as you said, just 1 vault. He currently is in 7th position, 1/10 of a point behind Charles Lakes.
So he has to pick up a 1/10 of a point to overtake Charles Lakes. And Lakes has to still compete on the parallel bars. That's going to be exciting. And at this point in time, you know, these gymnasts have worked awful hard. And it's down right now. It's down to 1 routine. And in Billy Paul's case, it's down to 1 jump over the horse.
Where would you rather be, in the position of 1 jump over the horse or a parallel bar routine?
I'd rather be vaulting myself.
And 1/10 down.
I'll take the 10th and still vault.
Okay. So you think Billy Paul is is sitting pretty?
Well, he's got to do a good vault, but parallel bar routine, a lot more can go wrong. Let's see. Here it comes. This is a big vault. Sukfo laid out, took a step backward and to the side, but that's basically how he does the vault, so he did his job. He did a good vault and got it all the way in. Didn't fall down or anything, and, now it's just, we'll see what this score is and see if Charles Lakes can beat him. There's the vault, a Sukahara with a full twist in the stretch position.
All right, this is Scott Johnson competing on the high bar. We'll tell you the vault score as soon as it is shown.
Johnson having a great meet. Here's a new series of skills from a full 1-arm, then to a 1-arm Ginger. That is a D skill, meaning the most difficult. Here comes his dismount now. Tuck that fin up out. And that's it. You know he's on the team. Scott Johnson will be up in Montreal at the World Championships in November.
And he won't be just up there. He'll be one of the top gymnasts of the United States, as evidenced by these trials. Right now he's in 2nd place, and boy, he looks good tonight.
He does. He really does look good. A member of that gold medal team in Los Angeles, still competing. And here comes his dismount on the high bar. Full twisting, double flyaway. And he got it in, and what a good meet for Scott Johnson.
And we promised you the score for Billy Paul. On the vault, he received a 9.3. Now remember, Charles Lakes, the man he is chasing right here, with 1 event remaining, that event being the parallel bars, is trying to remain calm.
Yeah,
Meditating, if you will.
awful lot of pressure on him right now.
All right, Scott Johnson, who just dismounted from the high bar, received a 9.40 for that performance. A good score for Scott Johnson, but it's meaningless for him because he's a lock on this team. Billy Paul and Charles Lakes, that's where the battle is taking place. How Charles Lakes does, well, we'll reveal that to you after this timeout. World Team Championship trials, and Phil Cahoy, who's currently in 5th place, and pretty much has his position in the team locked up, is getting ready to mount on the high bar.
Phil's long body really helps him here. He's been a past NCAA champion on the high bar. Does a difficult routine. It's going to be nice to see Phil on the team at the World Championships. He's such a veteran. He's been in so many competitions. He knows just what to do. Very intelligent young man. Nice one on giant combination. As a stupid, dislocate right to a handstand. That's a required skill, inverted giants. And he does a front stomach catch right out of the invert. Here it comes now. This is a dismount to make the World Championship team. Here it comes. Double layout, one step, but you know he's on the team.
Phil Cahoy, coached by his father.
And that was a good routine for Phil. He's had a great competition. He's got a lot more difficulty than he used to. There's his dismount, double layout. Came up a little short and had to take a step, but not a major break.
And again, the height factor on a layout is much more difficult for somebody his length at 5'11" than it is for somebody the size of Mary Lou Retton. Who can spin around a few times before she hits the ground. Phil Cahoy waiting for his score, getting back to the Charles Lakes Billy Paul drama. Remember, they're only 1/10 of 1 point apart as they battle for 6th place. Another battle going on for 8th place between Brian Ginsberg and Robbie Campbell. So the pressure is on for these gentlemen who want to make it to Montreal, Canada for the World Championships. This is Tim Daggett. He too is going to compete on the high bar as soon as they show the score for Phil Cahoy, and there it is, 9.50. 9.5 for Phil. The World Championship team is his.
And Timmy Daggett has been great in this competition. You know, there was some rumors that some of the people who wanted to compete after the Olympics were going to have a hard time because they were so busy with speaking engagements and everything else. But Daggett has just proved that theory. He went in this year and won the American Cup. He's here now, and he looks great on this. A new high bar routine since the Olympics, but this is the event that captured the gold medal for the team when Daggett performed, and he got a perfect 10. Everybody remembers that.
We've seen a couple of new routines out of some of our gymnasts tonight. In some cases, it didn't work out as well as planned, but this is where you want to try things out.
Daggett had a combination plan in that routine that he couldn't pull off. He was going to do 2 release moves in a row, but he caught and didn't have enough swing. Here's his dismount. He stuck that double layout cold. Great meet for Timmy Daggett, and it's on to Montreal in November at the World Championships.
As the best from the United States. Now, you knew he didn't do a release move. The judges may have suspected he didn't do it. But can they penalize him?
No, they cannot. No. They cannot penalize a judge for something, for a gymnast for something he was going to do but didn't do. Only if he needed it for difficulty in combination, but Timmy didn't in this case. Here comes his dismount. A double layout, and he usually does this with the full twist, too. He left that out, playing it a little safe. He's got a lot of hard work from now through November, too. And there's going to be some pressure on him up there, but I think Timmy's going to rise to the cause.
Score for Tim Daggett, 9.65. And that's a fine score as he finishes this meet, most likely in first place. Need a few perfect 10s to surpass him at this point. I don't think we're going to get in here tonight. All right, moving now to the parallel bars where Dan Hayden is the gymnast in action.
Dan is good on the parallel bars. And look at the giant swing right to a handstand. There's another one. Beautiful. Working very good. Dan also has had a great meet. Shows a lot of experience. He's only a sophomore in college, 2 years of college competition. There's a planche pressed to a handstand. Damn it off. Oh, he's walking down the bars. That was a break. He walked down the bars, had a lot of trouble in those handstand positions. You know, it's amazing that he handled that. He was way off balance, and he didn't fall off, and that was good. He just fought to stay up.
Is he better off fighting to stay up and made
yes,
a big break in there?
That's still better than falling off on that skill, because when you fall off,
it's 5/10 when you fall off to that.
Yeah, but you get those extra 10s anyway.
All right, we're going to take a timeout as Charles Lake waits to get the green flag as he stands by for the P-bars. Stay with us.
Hey, you say you getting tired of lettuce and tomato hamburgers in this town that don't quite make it? Yeah! You say that just once you'd like your hamburger hot and your lettuce and tomato cool and crisp all at the same time? Yeah! Well, I say you got it. I'm talking McDonald's new lettuce and tomato hamburger, the McDLT. I'm talking quarter pound of beef on the hot side.
And the hot stays hot.
The new McDLT.
Hot, hot.
Crisp lettuce and tomato on the cool side.
And the cool stays cool.
The new McDLT.
Cool crisp.
The beef stays hot, the cool stays crisp. Put it together, you can't resist. The hottest taste, the coolest dish.
Keep it hot, hot. Keep it cool, cool. McDLT. McDLT. Hot beefy McD. Cool crisp LT. McDLT.
It's a good time.
Hot beefy McD.
For the great taste, cool crisp LT. Of McDonald's. Could be the best tasting lettuce and tomato hamburger ever.
McDLT.
Tuesday, ESPN Slams and Jams goes to the mat with wrestling's biggest stars. Our AWA champions like the bright lights, but that's not the only reason they risk life and limb.
I got a big...
9-2-5. If he executes a 9-2-5, he will make the world team. If he executes a 9-2-0, he will not. The man he wants to overtake is Billy Paul, who has completed his competition. You see him in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. And all Billy Paul can do is watch and wait. Charles Lakes is in control.
Billy did his job. He had to do a good vault, and he did. So he's put the pressure on Charlie Lakes. And this is kind of ironic, but Charles Lakes has had some trouble in the past with pressure situations. But he thinks he's got a handle on it. He did a real good job for us up at the World University Games about a month ago, or a month and a half ago. So he... this is another test for him, a big test right here.
And he is moving cautiously, making sure all adjustments are exact. And you can believe that there's only one thing on Billy Paul's mind.
And that's, am I going to be competing or not?
Charles Lakes. Here we go.
Peach to a handstand. There's his giant swing right up. No problem yet. Good stitch to a handstand. Giant and a quarter, real good. No breaks so far. He doesn't look nervous at all. He's handling the pressure. Nice Diamidov. Good stitch to a handstand. Double pike.
That's
he
it.
got it in. Boy, that was
Lakes.
a good routine. I think that's going to be enough. We'll have to wait for the score, but I think that's going to be enough.
Billy Paul's face said it all. Charles Lakes needing a 9.25.
And here's another look at that routine. There's a peach basket, went right up. Look at the nice giant swing. The pressure was on here. Any slip at all on the bottom of any of those skills, and that would keep him from making the team, from competing at the World Championships. Nice stitch to a handstand. The whole routine was good, and a beautiful dismount at the end. Charlie Lakes met that challenge.
And here comes 9.60, 9.6 for Charles Lakes. And that means he is our sixth and final member of this World Championship team that will be going to Montreal representing the United States. Remember, the 24 national team members are vying for those top 6 spots. And Charles Lake filling the 6th spot.
6 will compete, but there will be
there are
8
also
team members.
Two alternates who are very important because gymnastic injuries do prevail, and if somebody pulls something, the 7th and 8th team members are very, very important. We'll be back to recap all of the scores and correct all of the numbers if there are any corrections to be made. Stay with us. Gymnastics continues here in St. Paul. It's over. The winners have been chosen. The music may be playing Born in the USA, but for this young man, Charles Lakes, the words that he is singing is, I'm headed to Canada. Charles Lakes claiming the final position on the United States World Championship team.
presenting the awards to the new United States World Championship team, the Executive Director of the United States Gymnastics Federation, Mike Jackie. Ladies and gentlemen, the second alternate on the World Championship team with a score of 106.50 from UCLA, Brian Ginsberg. The first alternate with a score of 106.50. I'm sorry, with a score of 108 from University of California, Berkeley, Billy Paul. Our sixth place member of the World Championship team scored 108.40 from the University of Illinois, Champaign, Charles Lakes. The fifth place member of the team with 109.75 from Arizona State University, Dan Hayden. Our fourth place team member scored 109.90 from the University of Nebraska, Phil Cahoy. The winner of the bronze medal with a score of 111 points from Southern Illinois University, the current national champion, Brian Babcock. The silver medalist with a score of 111.85 from the University of Nebraska, 1984 Olympic team member Scott Johnson. And the winner of the gold medal from UCLA, Olympic gold medalist Tim Daggett. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to acknowledge the coaches of the men on the award stand. Coach of Tim Daggett and Brian Ginsberg, and assistant coach of UCLA, Yefim Furman. And the great head coach of UCLA, Art Sherlock. From the University of Nebraska, coaching Scott Johnson and Phil Cahoy. Assistant coach Jim Howard. And head coach Francis Allen. And also coaching Phil Cahoy from Omaha, Nebraska, his dad, Phil Cahoy Sr. Coaching Dan Hayden from the Arizona State University, Yoichi Tomita. The coach of Brian Babcock from Southern Illinois, the great Bill Meade. The coach of Charles Lakes from the University of Illinois, Champaign, Yoshi Hayasaki. Ladies and gentlemen, we are also pleased to announce the coach of Billy Paul, Mr. Ron Weiss. It also gives us great pleasure to announce to you the assistant coach at the World Championships will be Nebraska's Jim Howard. And the head coach of this World Championships team, 1984 Olympic coach from Southern Connecticut University, A.B. Grossfeld. Ladies and gentlemen, your World Championship team and their coaches.
Let's take another look at those final results. After the sixth and final rotation, Phil Cahoy, with an exemplary performance on the high bar, moved from 5th position to 4th in the team standings. But of course, the most dramatic effort was made by Charles Lakes, who only needed a 9.25 but captured a 9.6 on the parallel bars in order to take the final berth. These are the alternates for our team. They are Billy Paul and Brian Ginsberg. Billy Paul and Brian Ginsberg will only compete if there is an injury to the other two athletes. Right now, our Peter Corman is standing by with our gold medalist, Tim Daggett, who took first place here tonight.
Thank you, Timmy.